What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show live here on DSM-Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to check us out on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called nowadays at DSM_Media. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the channel, make sure to check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you to every social media platform. We are available on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. But if you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show or any of our shows here at DSM, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. The DSM-Media-Philadelphia YouTube channel is the new home of the Phaithful Phanatics Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at 8 a.m., as well as every DSM pre-game live. If you want to subscribe for Turf Talk, that's its own individual page. Make sure you are subscribed to that as well every Thursday night throughout the summer until the season starts. But I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. You can find him as well at Scotty Drown. My man, happy Monday. And what's going on?
Yes, sir. Happy Monday. Happy to be back. And you know, had a pretty busy weekend. We actually got to celebrate my fiance's birthday over the weekend. So we did something every day. So it was a busy weekend, but nonetheless, happy to get back to the grind on this fine Monday morning. We're going to get into some Eagles talk, which is always exciting. I'm wearing my Kelly Green hat in honor of the jerseys dropping. Probably right after this show concedes, right? So
yeah, man.
Nonetheless, that's exciting. We can talk about the jerseys, the colors. I know that's been a topic of discussion of late as well. But then also the Phillies, man, just coming off a disappointing series loss to the Pirates after beating one of the best teams in baseball. After winning a series against one of the best teams in baseball. So inconsistency, right? Once again, is biting the Phillies in the ass, but still only a half game back of the wild card spot. So it's still room to be positive, but we'll obviously have to get into some of the negatives there.
Yeah, no, we'll get into the Phillies later on in the show, but as August 1st approaches tomorrow, football season is right around the corner, and coming up in a few weeks from here on out for the next couple months, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be kicking off and leading this show for the most part. With that said, let's start there, man. A lot to get into. Obviously, training camp is about 5-6 days in at this point. They've had a handful of practices. Obviously, with those practices come a lot of videos and reports and tweets and everything like that, right? So we love to react and overreact to those types of training camp performances. But I got to be honest with you, everything I've seen on my feed so far has been relatively positive. I mean, I know the first day with the second team, Nick Sirianni was effing this and effing that and digging into those guys for all the pre-snap issues and mistakes and penalties. But outside of that, I mean, Jalen Hurts, again, it feels like throughout training camp through the first 3 or 4 practices every day has elevated his play and gotten better. I've heard positive things about DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. I've heard positive things about both wide receiver threes in Olamide Zaccheaus and Quez Watkins. And of course, I think the two most, standout guys so far are the 2 first-round picks from the University of Georgia right now, and Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, man. So I'll throw it to you. Which storyline so far, which standout so far has you maybe not most surprised, but most energetic for this season? Because it's like, wow, man, if this dude can step up this year, it takes this side of the ball to a different level.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to somebody that you didn't mention heavily there, but one of the other Georgia Bulldogs, and that's Nakobe Dean.
Okay.
He's getting a lot of applause early on in camp from what I'm reading here. Apparently, defensive coordinator Sean Desai said Dean is doing a good job despite getting a lot thrown at him. Apparently, James Bradbury also shouted out Dean, saying he's been doing a great job communicating to the defense. So when you talk about surprise, this is a guy, right, drafted a little bit later than some of the other Bulldogs that we've gotten. And he didn't play much last season. We didn't see much of him, while we did get to see Jordan Davis, right? So we're familiar with Jordan Davis's game. We might not be super familiar with Nakobe Dean's. But obviously, he comes from Georgia. He has great communication. He's a great leader. He's got all the great intangibles, similar to that of a Jalen Hurts, right on the other side of the football.
Right.
But if he can man the middle of this defense and even be anything close to TJ Edwards, I think he can be better, honestly, just based on instincts. Now, TJ Edwards, he had a lot more size to him, I believe. But Nakobe Dean, his intangibles, his quickness, his agility, his smarts should be able to help him out. And I think if he can come through for this defense and give them a more than viable middle linebacker option in the middle of this defense to lead this unit, it's just that it's going to lead this unit. And I think it's going to make that defense so much better. Now, there's obviously talk. There's another story about how he's searching in the safety market, right? That's another topic of conversation, but maybe that's somewhere where you bring in a leader from that standpoint. But I just think getting that type of vocal leadership from Nakobe Dean is going to be essential to this defense this year. And it's important that he comes into the regular season ready to go and confident in his role. So I'm happy to hear that. To your point about Nolan Smith, I did have a funny quote from him pulled up here because he's just he's a character, man. And Jalen Carter, Jalen Carter actually has a nice quote out there too about the Cowboys. I'll let you dig into Jalen Carter, and I'll talk about Nolan Smith here. But Nolan Smith says he can't wait to start hitting at camp. A lot of things can be eliminated by just going fast and hitting the shit out of somebody. And it just speaks to the type of mindset this kid is working with. Like, he just can't wait to put those pads on and get the cracking. And, that's something different to this team that,
absolutely,
we haven't heard things like that from other guys on this unit, from previous guys that were here last year. So hearing that from Nolan Smith, a guy that's ready to go out there and rock some heads, that's fun. That's going to be a fun play of football. He's going to be a fun player to watch develop. And I'm interested to see how much of a role he can really dig out in his first season, whether that's as outside linebacker, edge rusher, whatever the case may be, because he's got all the intangibles. That's one thing these kids are coming with from Georgia. But I'll let you dig into Jalen Carter. Obviously, he's been tearing camp up.
Yeah, man. Well, first off, the Nakobe Dean thing is a great point, because when you talk about first-year guys, you look at the rookies and you look at this year's draft class. But in all reality, this is Nakobe Dean's first year. Yeah, I get it. He played special teams last year. He played a little bit. I remember the Tennessee week where he led the team in tackles and only played I forget what percentage of the snap count.
30-something% of the snap. Yeah, it was crazy.
It was the lowest of the linebacking core, and he led the defense in tackles that day. So it's awesome to hear, because it kind of solidifies why he was so sought after, if not for the injury in his draft class. Yeah. Because it's the IQ, man. And that's all you heard about was how this dude can lead a professional defense, and how he was the leader of that Georgia defense, which let's talk about it. It's as close to a professional defense as you're going to get at the college level. Those defenses are going to go down as one of the best to ever do it in the NCAA, right? So when he's the leader of that unit, when he's telling guys where to be, and that's what you want with this defense, because you already have everything else, Scotty. You already have the talent everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Graham's a leader and Fletcher Cox is a veteran. We get that, but that's not the signal caller. That's not your eyes and ears out on the field for Sean Desai. Right. So for this kid to hopefully, knock on wood, be able to come in day one, and for Sean Desai to say, man, we're throwing a lot on his plate right now, and he's just taking it all in stride and running with it. That's what you want to hear, because let's face it, that linebacker group is a big question mark for the Eagles right now. Reddick's a linebacker. Nolan Smith's a linebacker.
Yeah.
I'm talking your traditional drop back and coverage type of backer. What do you have right now? Nicholas Morrow?
Yeah, Nakobe, I think Christian Ellis has been getting first team snaps, I believe.
Right.
So,
if this dude can be that top 20 pick that he was mocked at, that's huge for this defense. So your Nakobe Dean point spot on.
And just one more thing on Nakobe Dean, because
Mhm.
as you're talking there, it just brought something else to mind. It's like, and this is maybe an obvious thing to mention here, but he's like that connector piece from the veterans on the team, right? You
Yeah,
mentioned Brandon Graham, a vocal
right.
leader. He's like that connector piece to these young Georgia Bulldogs
Yes,
that they brought in too. It's like they're going to listen to what he says. They're going to listen to what he communicates because they're used to him being their leader. So I think it makes it easier on those guys as well when he's putting them in place just like he
absolutely.
used to. So yeah,
Apparently
great point.
they have a Philly Bulldog group chat, and it's very,
Yeah,
very active. I forget who tweeted that out, but so yeah, man, it's huge, and it's little things like that, right? You talked about the intangibles, and you talked about Jalen Hurts' personality, and of course, it's extremely difficult to compare because we don't know who Nakobe Dean is. You get to hear
right,
Jalen Hurts, you get to see Jalen Hurts all the time. We don't
right.
know what kind of personality Nakobe Dean has. We don't know what his mindset's like, but with that football IQ and with the talent, you would have to assume he's one of the hardest working guys on that side of the ball. So it will be very, very interesting to see how he continues to develop. And who knows, man,
Absolutely.
maybe within the next 2 or 3 weeks, like he's your solidified signal caller, Mike
Yeah,
linebacker type of situation here
yeah.
because he just took it and ran with it. Nolan Smith. I mean, can we say enough about the reports? Again, you can, it's 3 days of
Reports,
training camp. It's
training camp,
very
yeah.
difficult to
Take it with a
get
grain of
over the
salt.
top excited. But if this kid has any if he's in the area of that speed off the edge that they're talking about in training camp right now, oh, he has a role day one. And it's not just a role as a drop back linebacker. And you mentioned it a bunch of times. He could be that kind of hybrid guy because he does
Yeah,
have the quickness to drop back, and he did it a lot in Georgia. But dude, if he can be anything like he seems to be in training
yeah.
camp right now, he definitely has a second team role carved out for himself. And then Jalen Carter. I mean, you mentioned Nolan Smith's quote, Jalen Carter's quote. I can't remember it. I don't have it pulled up, but
I do have it
basically about how he
if
can't
you
wait to
want
kick
it.
the shit out of the Cowboys.
Yeah, yeah, that's it, yeah, to put it in a just setting. Yeah, that's what he's down to join that movement, join that wave, as in F the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
Jalen
you
Carter,
love the
man.
mindset, right? You love the not cockiness, but you love the confidence of the kid, and you love the fact that he's down to join this movement, to join this little battle that the Eagles have with the Dallas Cowboys. However, for on the field purposes, dude, he again 3 days. I don't want to be one of those people that are overreacting to training camp reports, but he's as advertised so far.
Yeah,
He's as strong. He's as quick. He's as aggressive. He's as dominant as
yeah,
advertised. Already, people tweeting out from camp, not me, people there, people that cover this team. If this is who he is the steal of the draft at 9. Joining the second team and just moving. I believe he was on the second team, but going against the first team on day one. I believe that was the report. And just basically removing either Jason Kelsey or whoever was in that gap and would have had a sack, right, on his first or second play from scrimmage. I mean, dude,
went
I
through
don't
a
know.
double team, right? Like yeah, the reports coming out about Jalen Carter have been crazy. And now you're starting to hear the rumblings again of, oh, this is this is a guy that could have gone number one in the draft, right? And it's funny, with all that stuff that happened off the field, right? Got into some trouble before he got out of Georgia. Everybody was running his name through the dirt,
Yeah,
talking about
man.
how out of shape he is. And then he comes into camp, obviously in one of the best conditions of his life, and he's dominating camp so far. Like you said, it's 3 days of camp. You don't want to jump the gun. You want to take everything with a grain of salt. But the mentality is there. It feels like the effort is there based on the reports, right? And we already know the talent is there. So if all of those things are connected for Jalen Carter, he's going to be a draft selection that we're probably going to remember for a really long time. So it's just interesting to think about our defensive tackle situation, right? You got Fletcher Cox still there. You still have Milton Williams. He's kind of a defensive end / defensive tackle. You can play Brandon Graham inside sometimes. You got Jordan Davis right on his second season. You lost Javon Hargrave, and it just feels like the opening is there for Jalen Carter to become the best defensive tackle in this team and our premier defensive tackle. He's going to be able to do it in the run game. He's going to be able to do it in the pass rush scheme. It's crazy. It's the next best thing that we've had, in my opinion, since we had Fletcher Cox in his prime. Mind you, we still have Fletcher Cox. I just think, he's a little past his prime, obviously.
Yeah.
And Jalen Carter's ready to step into that role that Javon Hargrave filled very shortly. I just think Jalen Carter, he has a chance to be better. And it sounds crazy when you say he has a chance to be better than a guy that got double-digit sacks last year. But when you look at the transgression of the season, we had to go out and get Linvale Joseph. We had to go out and get Ndamukong Suh because we couldn't stop the run with Javon Hargrave. It is as simple as that. That was Javon Hargrave's weakness. And I feel like Jalen Carter doesn't have that weakness, man. No. It's to be determined. We'll see how he matches up in the run game. I think he's going to be a no-braining pass rush option, but I just think he can fill that void that Javon Hargrave had, which was in the rush defense, and he just doesn't have that weakness. But I'm more than excited. As you can tell, I'm rambling on about this kid. He's going to be a special talent. I do believe that.
Well, here's why you're excited, and it's the same reason that I am. It's because finally, and we talked about this on draft night and every show beyond that we did about this rookie class for the Eagles, is that they finally, Scotty, have that premier prolific talent in the first round that should step in day one and not just play, not just have a role, but be the guy.
Yeah.
Right. When you talk about Joey Bosa being a third overall pick, when you talk about TJ Watt, JJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, you talk about all these guys that are top 10 picks, number 1 overall picks, and they step in day one and they're defensive rookie of the year candidates. They're defensive player of the year candidates in year 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Well, this kid may not have went number 1 overall, but there's a lot of people who covered this year's class that said he's the best player in this draft. He's a better a defensive player than Will Anderson. Well, that right there tells me he needs to not only have a role day one, Scotty, he needs to he can dominate day one. And I saw like the first report was of the first day of camp was Fletcher Cox and Milton Williams up the middle. And again, I know we run, I know they funnel these guys in and out and they keep them fresh and keep them healthy, but damn it, man. And I'm not talking about right now, but when week 1, week 2, week 3 rolls around, Jalen Carter should be starting for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know it might not mean much. Milton Williams could play the first 2 snaps and Jalen Carter play the next 6. It doesn't matter. I get it. But when you're this tight, when you're this caliber of player and prospect, I'm expecting to see him trot out on the field with the first 11 guys.
Yeah, no lie to you as you're talking through that. I honestly, I think you should start immediately. I know we maybe jumping the gun there, whatever.
Why is it never here in Philly, man?
Why not?
Right? Why do they always have to grow and develop and learn here in Philly?
Yeah, throw him into the fire against New England's rush defense or rush offense, and let's see what he's got. I mean, he's a top 10 pick. Let's get him out on the field. I agree with you, man. No grooming. I don't think we need to wait on this.
No, because those guys don't need that.
You might want to balance it out. Maybe they start Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox just to balance out veteran and young guy. I don't know. Maybe that's what they feel they have to do, but I think Jalen Carter should be that guy from day one, man. And he eventually, to your point, and maybe that's what you're getting at there, to your point, maybe it does take 2-3 weeks for them to see him against other NFL starters. And then they're like, okay, there's just no way this guy can come off our bench. But
no,
I agree
and
with
listen, it's not really, it's not within this defensive line rotation. It's not really a bench per se when you talk about the top 6 or 7 guys that get funneled in and out. But damn it, man. Like, and I feel, D-Rab, I feel you, man. I like Milton Williams. I like him a lot as a rotational piece. Milton Williams should not be starting over Jalen Carter if Jalen Carter is as advertised.
Yeah.
And again, people are going to say, well, why does it matter? Because it does to me. It just does to me when, like, again, why is it always here in Philly where whether it's with the Phillies taking 5 years to bring someone up through the system, whether it's the Sixers with their head coach burying talent on the back end of the bench, whether it's the Eagles making guys sit and learn. I just named you 7 different prolific top 10 defensive draft picks and edge rushers over the last decade. Yeah. What's a common thing with all of them? They come in day one, they compete, and they dominate from day one. That's what type of player this kid is expected to be. Don't run me no bullshit. Oh, well, he's going to fit he is going to fit the system, but he's a difference maker. When is the last time the Philadelphia Eagles have gotten the best player in the draft? I couldn't tell you.
I mean, I would have to go back to that Jalen Hurts draft, but no, I know what you mean, though. When coming out of the draft, that's player in the draft. I know what you mean. I'm just fucking with you, but no, I agree, man. There's no reason to hold back excitement for this kid. Like you were saying, you got to throw him out there. He can make a difference from the beginning. And when you draft a defensive talent like that in the top 10 picks, that is your star. That's your defensive star for the future. Let him blossom. Just let it happen. And I think they will. I know we're saying all this as if they won't. I do believe
I
that
believe
they
that
will
again.
let
Exactly. Like it sounds like I'm going on this like angry rant on day 5 or 6 of training
hype.
It's not excited. I just want to see this kid be what's expected and from him. That's all.